Welcome to On the Edge with April Mahoney Brains. Here, this is the spot where the conversation is pointed, the guests are sharp, and the responses are never dull. Welcome home, Brains. There's only one requirement to hang out on the edge, is that you open your big brain and close your small mind. Did you bring your thinking caps? It's time to put them on, because the conversation starts now. Welcome to On the Edge with April Mahoney Brains. You're back at the spot, the location, the place, where the conversations are pointed, the guests are sharp, and the responses are never dull. Today, this is going to be a fascinating podcast. Now, I'll tell you, stuff happens, okay? We had just thought I was recording it, didn't record it, messed it up, but let me tell you, we got it down pat now to a science. This is going to be an educational podcast with Donna DiDomenico. Donna has written a fascinating book, Your Vote, Your Future. Now, let me frame this for you and put it into context, because I really want you to pay attention to what we are about to put down for you. Let's talk about voter suppression, okay? Voter suppression is something that we're experiencing right now in the 21st century. Voter suppression in the U.S. history and politics is any legal or extra-legal measure or strategy where it's proposed or practically affects its reducing voters' rights or registering to vote, members of a targeted racial group, political party, religious community. The overwhelming majority of victims of voter suppression in the United States have been African Americans. Voter suppression has been practiced in the U.S. since at least the end of Reconstruction, 1865 to 1877, during which African Americans in the states of former confederacies were briefly able to exercise their newly won rights to vote. Now, you was only 3/4 of a human being, though. Remember that. The 14th 1868 and 15th 1870 Amendment to the United States Constitution, along with a series of laws passed by a Republican-dominated Congress between 1866 and 1875, granted U.S. citizens the equal civil and legal right to African Americans, specifically prohibiting, restricting, or denying the right to vote on the basis of race, criminalized the territories actively enabled by white supremacist organizations, such as the Ku Klux Klan, and authorized the use of federal troops to protect polling stations and to put down white supremacist violence. Relying on federal protection, African American voters elected hundreds of Black state representatives and 16 Black U.S. representatives and senators. By 1870, nearly all of the former Confederate states were controlled by the Republican Party. Let's talk about women. Did you know that women have only had the right to vote for the last 104 years? Women did not have the right to vote. They didn't have any say. They were a part of the minority. So now, here we are in 2024, facing the same discriminatory madness that happened in the 1800s. But Donna has taken the time to dial back and write a book, pamphlet size, that questions your morals, your values, and also gives you a clear guideline as to how to pick a candidate that is right for you. Not based upon media, not based upon sensationalism, not based upon lobbyists and influence, but heart-centered, real, fact-based things that is going to impact you and your children the rest of your life. Let's welcome her to the show. Donna, I get it wrong, DiDomenico, to the show. How are you, precious?
Good. How are you, April? Hi, Brains. So happy to see all of you.
Yep, I am fired up. Let me tell you, because this is going to be jam packed. I'm glad I still have my notes. We were just on a roll, but we're going to talk about some things that are very, very important. Tell us how you show up in the world.
How I show up in the world, I show up as who I am. I am a very straightforward person. I have a lot of high values, high standards, and I am interested in developing leaders. And so that's where I've spent my life. I've had a corporate career up until a few years ago, and since then have really spent my time developing the future leaders of America and bringing authenticity and just genuine care for people back to this part of the world.
Well, number one, we need to start with civility. Okay. We need to be able to agree, yet disagree, and not be disagreeable. To base our decisions on our life and on our political leaders on fact, not based upon what the media is constantly ingraining in us, not the ugly vitriol and name calling, but what is going on with the economy? What is going on with uh, our safety? What is going on with a right to choose what to do with your own body? What is going on with being a negotiator and an influencer and an impactor as a world leader when it comes to things that are going on around the world? So tell us a little bit about your book and what brought that to light. What ignited you?
Yeah, so the book really came out of a passion that I have, and it is about what's going on right now. So the whole premise of the book is that we all have a right to vote, and we need to take that very seriously. It is our given right to vote, and we have to make the choices that are right for us. So it's about not believing everything we hear, not sitting back and letting others tell us what to do, but for us to get in touch with what's really important to who we are as people, what is important to our families, and to make decisions at the voting box that reflect who we are, and that we go through a process of selecting a candidate based on the research that we've done to know that what they're telling us is in fact what they'll do, and that we're looking for leadership in the future. So really structured this way, April. The first part is getting in touch with yourself. Who are you? What do you believe in? What are your values? The second part of it is doing the research on the candidates so that you're not trusting what other people are telling you, what you're hearing on the news, but in fact taking some time and doing due diligence and taking a look at who's actually running for office and what is it that they bring. And then the third piece of it is looking at leadership that's needed to run this country, this great country that we live in. What type of leader is going to do the best job for us? And then the last part, of course, is making that decision. And when you go to the voting booth, you know where you stand on each of the candidates and you select the one that you believe will support you the best.
We're talking about freedom. My mentor said to me one time, she says, April, are you afraid to be free or are you free to be afraid? And so I had to look inside myself and say, you know what? Let me do the deep dive here, because we're being manipulated by figureheads' brains. The president and the vice president are people that sit at the head of the table. But what we have to consider and we have to understand is all of the puppet masters that are around them: the Congress, the legislator, the the uh, the IRS, the other world leaders, their mental capacity, their emotional bandwidth, their personal prejudice, their influence, the lobbyists, all these people play a part in it. So when you look at whoever's going to be the president or the vice president, understand that they're the spokesperson, because everybody else is running the is running the machine. And we get so emotionally attached to what they're saying and what they're doing, because is that some displaced anger or lack of, is there a yearning? Is there a compelling? What is it that drives us these days outside of the 30-second sound bites that we get? I worked in media, okay? I'm telling you, I work for the best ABC, NBC, KPBS. And you know what they say to the audience? We are here to create the news. We are here to create sensation, to spark an emotion, not deliver the news, not tell you the facts, but to get you incited, to get you motivated, to sway your opinion. What happened to the days of Barbara Walters? Barbara would come out and just tell you how it is. Walter Cronkite would tell you just how it is. And then you go back and you edit and filter. You know, you have to think about the person that you're going to run, that's going to be the president. They're going to have the nuclear codes. They could blow up everything. They could blow us up. They could blow up the other people. What about all the money that we don't have to support what we need here in the United States, but yet and still we have billions of dollars to help other people fight wars to kill other people? You know, what about how long they're in office? Work with me, brains. I say 70. That's it. If I have to retire at 62, I don't need you running for president at 70. That's not that you can't do a good job, and it is independently based, but we're talking about the next generation of leaders. We're talking about millennials. What's your position on that, Donna?
So I think, I take a more neutral position, I think, on that, saying that, when it's the right person, just like with any leader, whether they're heading up a company or they're heading up the country, when it's the right leader, some of these other factors don't have to come into play. I do agree with you. I believe that there's a point where we should retire. And, I've made that choice myself, and you just, you have to, you can go on and do other things in life, but there's a point where we are different than what we used to be. I think the interesting point is about the millennials too, because having worked through a corporate career, I felt like there's a point where the mind shifts of the younger groups, and they're coming in wanting different things. And I think it's really important that whoever is in charge can represent everyone. I look at it as where I am in life. I'm worried about, my retirement lasting, for however long I'm here, and how will I live for the remaining years of my life, and so on. What are the things I still want to do? What are the things that I still want to fulfill in my life? A millennial is looking at a different stage, right? They're saying, I want to buy a house. I want to do this. They have just a whole different set of needs. And so they need to be looking at it much differently than I do. And I think that's really important when it comes to the voting process, because we all get a vote and it is all about us. I shouldn't be voting for what the millennial needs. I need to be voting for what I need. And I wouldn't ask them to vote for me for my needs, because they have a long life ahead of them that they need to take care of.
And you have to look at people's character. You know, it's how you talk to me, it's how you treat me. I don't have to see you do something bad to me to know that your character traits are not something that I recognize or I identify with. I don't need to see, I don't need to get cussed out to know that you can cuss folks out, because I've seen you do it to other people. What is your intention? Who's pulling your strings? How much money do you need? That's what I want to know. How much money do you need? And when you look at it, the American dollar is not backed by anything. We're trillions of dollars in debt. I had to sit down and write 3 or 4 times, what is $1 trillion? And we are trillions of dollars in debt. We're the laughing stock of other people around the world when we were the superpower. People are looking at us and saying, what are you Americans doing? I used to laugh when I would watch the parliamentary procedures in Europe. And I say, wow, they're so disruptive and they just cutting each other off, but they get it done. They get it done in 3 or 4 months. Here we are on the stump for 2 years, swaying, manipulating, getting money, getting caught up in scandals, all of that. And I say to myself, is sexual indiscretions a big deal to me? don't care how you get down, but what I do care is about your level of integrity. And if you can say, look, my woman don't have a problem with it or my husband doesn't have a problem with it, that doesn't mean that I can't do the right thing for the country and be forthright. But lying, I can't stand a liar. I can't trust you. And when I can't trust you, I'm putting everything in you. What do you think about that, Donna?
I think that's absolutely 100% right on, April. And the thing is, too, is that, it's about being authentic. And so, when you're authentic, you walk into a room, you don't have to say a word. People can see who you are. They know who you are. You just are who you are, right? It's that simple. And, a lot of times we put on these pretenses. We talk a nice game, we act in a nice way, but what's underneath that isn't that same person. And when you're not that same person, you don't know what to expect. There's not a trust that can be given to you, right? Because you're already putting on a pretense. So you have to see below that. And so, being authentic is really important in this whole process and selecting, who you want to vote for. The other thing is, we talked about the way that the US looks right now, how we as a country look to other countries where we were their leader in the past. They looked to us, they wanted to be like us. And
Mm-hmm.
really, what I have to say to that and to all the brains is that we can do that and more. We can be better than we ever were in the past. And that's where we need to focus, being better as we move forward, because we have to make it happen. And our vote is what will contribute to that, right? It's how we vote and who we vote for that's really important into getting us back to where we want to be
Mm-hmm.
and to get us recognized as that superpower again.
And we talked about authenticity. Fraser, like I know, you send your representative. You got your hair on, your eyelashes, your makeup, you're smelling good, you got all this kind of stuff. And then you go home and you take your teeth out and take your wig off and pull off those eyelashes, okay? Pop off those fake nails, take out the floaties in your bra. You're not showing up as who you really want to be. And sometimes we do have to wear a mask depending on what the situation is. But a real leader doesn't have to do that. A real leader allows the people around them to bolster them up. They are looking at things from an eagle eye view. They're bringing everything to the table. I don't care if you bring in the coffee, if you bring in the next big idea, if you bring in the budget, if you bring in a debate. Everybody has something to offer. That's why we're so into diversity, equity, and inclusion. It doesn't mean that, head count. We've got so many Mexicans, we got so many Asians, we got so many blacks. I don't want to be a head count. I want a seat at the cotton picking table. I want to make a difference. What do you feel, Donna?
I think that's absolutely necessary, right? And it's the fact that when we bring all of this diverse thought together, we become much stronger and better
That's right.
as one. The number one thing for a leader should be about unity, bringing people together for common goals, common achievements, things that they have in common. But when you sit down at a table, as you say, April, and you have a conversation, when it's a diverse group, that conversation becomes so much more impactful, diverse conversation at the table, right? And when you have all of these different perspectives coming together, you're now serving the broader audience. And your simple ideas become much bigger because of the voices that you're hearing and incorporating into growing those ideas. It's so important that you have this diverse thought, the inclusion of everyone into the voice that's being developed by the group.
And I don't know why and how it is we all became so angry. You know, After COVID, it just seemed like just everybody just got so angry about everything. And I
Yeah.
don't know what that is. It's like I look at the political rallies. Who fills two arenas at one time? People are listening to music, they're clapping their hands, they're crying, they're being empathetic, they understand. And then you've got people that are spilling, you know, clearly untruths, you know,
Mm-hmm.
eating
Yeah.
animals and who works at McDonald's and just, I mean, I don't care anything about that. I want clean water. I want resources for the unsheltered here in America. I want there to be a limit and control to the borders. Don't get me wrong. I'm an independent brains. I'm not on one side or the other. I'm down the middle. I can pick and choose what side. But there has to be law and order. And without law and order, there's chaos. And I think about all the money that we are spending to help destroy other countries. And then what happens? The United States marches right back in and gives them these huge loans to rebuild the country when we just gave their opposition money to blow everything up. These people had homes, they had schools, they had gardens, they had a life. Do you think they just want to be uprooted to come to a country? They don't speak the language, they can't drive the cars, they don't know anything about the medical, they don't understand the cultural nuances. So when you look at people that are immigrants, you have to have some empathy as well.
I think there's another piece there too, and that is that we have to be in touch with the people of our own country, right? And that that we have to understand the needs that are out there, and we've come to be complacent with being told what we need, or this will help us, we're going to do this for you, but we don't really know if it is going to help us, if it is going to make us better, right? And are we serving all of our people? That's a big question that we really need to address. Are we serving all of our people? Are we helping them grow to be able to have the things that they want to have in their lives, to be able to have the American dream? And that's different to all of us, right? So, I mean, I can sit here in my nice little house and say, well, I think everybody should have, but that's not important to everybody else. It's me. And that's why it's so important that we all focus on our right to vote. We all get a vote, and then we all get a say in it. And then we all get to hold whoever is elected accountable.
Right.
It isn't just a one and done, go to the voting box, cast your vote, and my candidate didn't win or mine won, and I'm so excited. It doesn't end there. We have to come back and we have to hold that person accountable. We have to be active in what's going on every day, because it is about us. It is about all of our lives, and we need to take an active role in them.
And I say there should be term limits.
Yeah.
8 years, if you can't get it done in 8 years, out you go. You're a career politician. You've been there from the womb to the tomb. And it just doesn't happen because there are different needs. Every 10 years, every generation is a different need.
Yeah. I think it's too that, things always change, right? And as they should. We think back years ago, talk about just in technology alone, I mean, how far we've come in the last 20 years with technology. Now everything is on our phones and we can walk around and do all kinds of things. The point is that, people change over time, and when they're representing us, they can become complacent in what they're doing and how they're representing us. And we need to make sure that we're stirring up and bringing up people, bringing new ideas, just like we would in an organization. You're always bringing in new to keep on growing from where you are today to where you want to be in the future.
It is, because we're playing small brains, and that's disappointing to me. We have big brains. We have a lot of capacity. We are supposed to be the super leaders of the world. People are not looking at us anymore. I've been to communist countries. It's law and order. Okay. Don't believe all the hype. Some people haven't been to the next county, much less have a passport to been to another country. I don't agree with, how dictators treat their people, but I know that there's respect. I know that there's law and order. I know that there's decency. I know that there's a sense of community, that there's a sense of responsibility, that they are their brother's keeper. Today, I was in a restaurant with my husband, and I saw this couple that was tattered and torn. And I told the waiter, I said, bring me their bill, because I am my brother and sister's keeper. The way that the woman looked, she was probably going to clean herself up, wash herself up in the bathroom right there in the restaurant. They weren't going to go get in a brand new car like me. They weren't going to go to a nice home like Donna's. They were going to go and make a pallet out in the park somewhere and live there. But yet and still, we are so greedy and self centered. Some of us, not all of us. I'm going to say all of us because we live in America. This is a first world problem. Our worst is somebody's best, you know? So I say that when you look at our leaders and you look at he or she, whoever's going to be elected, what is the underlying root cause? How is the decisions that they're going to make, the boxes that they're going to tick, how is it going to impact you? How is it going to impact your grandchildren? I'm looking at what's going on. By the time that these things are implemented, me and Donna's going to go on to glory and spread our wings. But what's going to happen to the next generation? What's going to happen to the earth? What's going to happen to the water? People are in these tornadoes and these hurricanes right now, devastating, and they say that there's no global warming. What's the agenda? You know, fracking. So we're going to go down to the core of the earth and just release all the gas and just implode. You know, it's so many things that we have to think about, but we can start at the basic level. Where should we start? And how do you start if you're a first time voter, Donna?
So I think you start with you, right? And so, we're our own keepers, we're our own leaders, and we have to lead ourselves effectively. So it's a matter of what is really important to you. And, the first part of the book really focuses on you becoming one with what are your values, what are your beliefs, what are the things that are out there that are really important to you, and understanding them and knowing what they are. And then from there, you go into the research. And you're going to hear so many things out there about, this person stands for this, or, as you talked earlier, media, right? Media is going to tell us all kinds of things. It's not about what they think, it's about what you think. So you have to do your research once you know what you're standing for to understand that whoever you're voting for is going to represent the things that are important to you. And the last piece I think is really important for first-time voters is to look at leaders as leaders. They are here because they have to represent us, not only in our country, but throughout the world. And they have to be the quality of leader, whatever you view that to be, to run this country. We are a big country. We have a lot of things that we want to keep and we want to maintain. And for me, number one is like freedom. To me, if you don't have your freedom, you don't have anything. We don't need to talk about anything else because they won't be our choices in the future. And so for me, that's really important. But maybe for somebody else, it's not, or maybe they don't see it as freedom that way. That's okay. I'm perfectly good for that because when you go to that voting box, it's your right to vote and it's your right to pick who works for you the best. So go through doing your assessment of what's important to you, do your research on the candidates, look at their leadership capability, and then make your choice. It's not a long process. It's just a process that's really important so that you place a vote that you can resonate with for yourself,
Absolutely.
that you didn't listen to the media.
And it's your negotiation skills, be it a politician or a business leader. Can you go in and make a deal? Do you know the art of the deal? Because a lot of people want to be entrepreneurs, but baby, that's a big $25 word. You've got to design the business, incorporate the business, manage the business, get somebody to buy into the business, pay the bills, and you still need marketing, sales. You have to pay your taxes, all of these things, and then turn around and do it all over again. And you don't do these things by yourself. You don't do it by yourself.
And you're also the leader of the business, right? And so it's a great correlation to what we're talking about, April, because as the leader of the business, you're making those decisions that are important to your survival, right? To that success of that business, where it's going to go. Is it going to grow? Is it not going to grow? Who's going to work with you? Who's going to work for you? Who's going to be included in your conversations?
That's right.
And so it's really, really relates to everything that we're talking about.
Let me see a cover of that book, Donna.
Okay, so hot off the press, this is just your my kind of proof copy. So you see a little line going across it, but it's called Your Vote, Your Future. And it's available on Amazon right now in an ebook for 99 cents and in a paperback for 3.99. The reason it's priced the way it is they had Amazon requires you in an ebook to charge at least 99 cents, and you have to cover the printing cost of the book, hence the 3.99 on the paperback. So for me, this was a service. I really felt strongly that we're being misguided as a country in being told how to vote based on what's important to other people. And we really need to work through this process of what's important for us. It's our vote. We need to make it an informed vote, right? We need to be educated on what's important to us. So this will help you work through that process.
And if the vote was not so cotton picking important, they wouldn't be lobbying so hard. They wouldn't be on the stump for 2 years prior to you make a decision. And there's only so much that you can tell me. Are you listening to these people? They have recorded these conversations where they say, stay on message. I don't care what rally they go to, it's the same message. The media, it's the same message. And if something is ingrained in you, neuro linguistic programming, it's a form of hypnosis. You start to believe it. If I keep telling you 20 times a day that this is pink and it's not red, you're going to start seeing it as pink. What you have to do is close your eyes and remember what real pink looked like versus real red. It's the same thing with individuals. Look at their character. It's right in your face. I say, is sexual indiscretion a deal breaker for me when it comes to picking a person? Not if you have integrity and you're honest. Your partner might be open to that. But when you lie to me and you steal money from me and you try to cover up, you try to manipulate me, I got a problem with you because I can't trust you. Trust is very subjective because trust is based upon if I do something and you like it, I can trust you. But if it goes against your moral fiber or you cheat, if we're in a relationship and you don't call me at 5 o'clock and you cheated before, I'm going to hold that against you. Now I don't trust you. Trust is a big word. Trust is something that has to be earned. Parents have to trust their children. Their children have to trust them to know that they're going to do the right thing that's in your best interest. That's all that we're asking for. Honesty. I knew a politician in Los Angeles that came out and said, yes, I had a relationship with another woman. I was having problems with my wife, and we sparked up a relationship. Problem. Stayed in office, was honest. But then there's others that will, lie and hide money to hide the truth. And it's dangerous, brains. It's dangerous. If they will do that to the person that's the closest to them, imagine what they'll do to you. You will never meet these politicians. I've got my walls. If you could see my studio, you'd be amazed. I've been around a lot of politricians, is what I call them, politricians, because they turned out to not be the person that I thought they were. But does that mean that they cannot have people around them that encourage them, like the Congress, like your civic leaders, like your school board people, people that you vote to be judges? All these people are the ones that really make an impact. And people don't look at that. When they look on on their ballot, Donna, they're looking at, okay, who's the president, who's the vice president, but they're not looking down the line. Tell us a little bit about what they should be looking for.
Well, they should be looking for people that are really going to serve the way they want them to serve, right? And so, it's an interesting point when you say looking down the line, right? Because think about how many times you actually go in and vote and you don't know the people that are further down the line. You never even heard their name, or you're asked to vote on a proposition and you're like, well, I never saw that before. You're standing there and you're trying to read this little blurb and make a decision on it. So being prepared is probably the most important thing that you can do when we get the ballots in the mail. Take some time to look at that, look at the names on there and see who you relate to in them. Knowing again what you want for you first. Look at each of those candidates. Look at the blurbs that are on the side and make decisions that are right for you. What are the things that are really important? And then vote for them.
When you look at the political climate and women right now, you're a woman and I'm a woman, and let me tell you, we are on fire, okay? For so many reasons. Because for some reason, we're being disrespected and we are not taken seriously. And people are just talking to us just any old kind of way. I really see that there is going to be another revolution. People think it's going to be a civil war. It's going to be, blacks against whites or, Hispanics or whatever. No, it's going to be women. Women are going to rise up. Where do you see women as leaders in the political spectrum?
So I think that there's my probably I'm a little unique on this. I think there's a need for both men and women in leadership. They bring different qualities and they bring different things. I think the most important thing for women, though, is to be themselves when they're out there leading, right? To bring themselves, to be the authentic self. Don't worry about being judged by other people. Do the right thing. That's what's most important for women. There is something that women are yet to bring to us. We haven't seen it yet because we've not been out there as the leaders. So, we're building our presence. We're in roles we've never been in before, but in masses, of what we can do collectively. I think we bring a lot more unity to the party, in that we're more about bringing people together and hearing people. But I do think that we still, the diversity piece is really an important piece.
Absolutely.
And so it's everybody needs to be there.
And you look at other countries, there have been women leaders.
Yeah.
Cleopatra, please. You look at the Queen Elizabeth. There's Margaret Thatcher. I met Margaret Thatcher, and let me tell you, she was no joke. She was no joke. You felt her aura and her energy in the room. These are just some of them. And what we have to understand, even as women, we have to get rid of sexism, classism, racism, because women can be a cold piece. I know in leadership and in companies, I have been attacked by more women than men. And I'm not saying one versus the other, but sometimes I feel that women feel that they have to electrify or magnify their masculine energy. You're not a man. Bring to the table what you bring to the table. Softness, negotiation, loving, caring, common sense, nurturing. These are strong values. You don't have to be the hunter, the gatherer, the butcher, you don't have to be the loudest one in the room. You don't have to do that. Bring what you bring. As Donna said, your authentic self. But do you know who your authentic self really is? That's when your intuition comes in. Tell us a little bit about the work that you do intuitively.
So I inspire leaders to really pay attention to their intuition and to really integrate spiritual tools into what they do every day on the professional side of business. It's a very interesting area. And, we talk about it and we actually do it all the time without knowing that we're doing it, right? So I'll give you an example of what I mean. So brains, when I was working, I would hear little voices tell me, no, don't do that. Do it this way instead. Or my head would get so flooded, I'd have to leave the room and kind of just go sit in silence for a couple minutes. This is what I'm talking about when I say we want to integrate our intuition and integrate the spiritual tools into what we do. The tools of meditation, of sitting in silence, things like that, that help you just clear your mind so that you can make decisions from a different perspective with your with your intuition guiding you, hearing your inner voice, using your inner wisdom to make these decisions. And when you do that, you tend to always do the right thing. And they just go together because you're being guided by your inner voice, by your belief system, by your values. Those are what you're hearing when that little voice pops up in your head. And so it starts with that, and it goes much deeper than that. But, intuitive leadership is just knowing the right things to do because you know.
And being accountable.
And being accountable.
Take
Yeah,
responsibility for your stuff.
Yeah, like you don't just do things. You have to stand there. First off, leaders have to communicate, right? So it's when you're talking to people, you're getting a dialogue going. A good leader sparks dialogue. I'm talking to you, April, and as I'm talking to you, I'm asking you questions. I'm learning as that's happening. I'm expanding my ideas. I'm expanding my vision for things. And so now I grow as a result of that conversation. I can now be a stronger leader as a result of that conversation. It's kind of creating this vulnerability for ourselves as well. So, it's getting out there, it's communicating, and then holding ourselves accountable.
Right.
I would never, walk away from something I did, and when it went wrong, go, oh, well, I had nothing to do with that.
Right.
I
Right.
say, right.
Oh,
I
that
was in the
burns.
middle of that. Wait, let me be clear. I was in the middle of that. Hold on. We got to talk about this, right? And so, those would be the more conversations because I owed it to everyone, but especially to myself to learn from what happened.
Absolutely. And you know what? Our mistakes are our biggest learning tools. And accountability. That's what I say. Hold your own junk. And delegate. When you're a good leader, let somebody else sit at the head of the table, sit in your seat. I got to sit in the halls of Congress. Our congressman took us on a private tour. It was about 25 of us, 10:30 at night. And let me tell you, I was forever changed. I got to sit in the seats where they make the decision. I got to walk down the hall. I got to look at the draping over Lincoln's tomb. I got to stand right there where heads of state lie in state as they passed away. But what I saw, more importantly, was the diversity inside of Congress. The statues of all the women that have contributed, all the different ethnicities, the Native Americans, the Johnny Cash is there now. I looked at that and I was happy but heartbroken at the same time because I said, how are these people on television acting such a fool? And you walk through such a majestic place, how they've laid the tiles a certain kind of way in the floor so that you would follow a certain path and how they were inlaid. Let me tell you, if you ever go to Washington, D.C., don't ever miss an opportunity to go through the halls of Congress. I ain't care nothing about the White House.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
it should be called the People's House, not the White House. It should be the People's House because it was built on the backs of slaves, but it was also a place that is supposed to incorporate everyone that has come into this country. And that's what makes this the promised land. And it's not that way anymore. There's so much vitriol. You have to worry about your kids going to school, being shot, going to kindergarten. I don't understand that. I don't understand why we have so many disenfranchised and people living on the street, but we have money for bombs for other countries. The music that our children are listening to is so vulgar. Even the pitch. Now, you're very intuitive. I'm very intuitive. And for all of my energy workers and sound healers out there that is listening to this, you know about the tone and the pitch and how it changes the nuclear structure, your genomics, your DNA. And this is what satanic messages. You look at all this half nakedness, naked body. If you're going to be naked, just be naked. But don't be salacious. and you're trying to entice our kids when they go to school. It's just, it's a lot going on, but it's the world. It's not just the United States, because as I talk to my people in Australia and Canada, you're seeing all of this spilling over. But you know what? They're using us as a template, and that's embarrassing.
It is. And it's again right back to our importance of voting for people that really represent our values and our beliefs, and assuring that they follow through on the commitments of what they're saying from the time they're campaigning to the time they actually take office and deliver on their 4 years there. I think also we were hitting on the point of empowerment when we were on, just starting to talk, and in that, it's really important that as leaders we empower people, because it's through empowerment that we develop the next generation of people.
Mm-hmm.
And so we talked earlier about the millennials, and today it's about developing them so that they can take over, right? So that, we're not all going to be here. So we talk about now age and office and stuff, but we have to develop that next generation and get them ready for these big roles that are out there for them. And the best way that we do that is by sharing our values, by sharing the things that are important with us with them, and giving the keys to the car with them so that they can practice driving while we're still here.
Absolutely.
Or they take over while we're still here, and they deserve to take over because it is their future.
It is their future. And, I think of Joe Biden. Yes, he aged out. Okay. But for him to have the courage, because it took courage to step down and allow someone else to take the gauntlet and run with it, he's my hero, because he put country over his ego. And ego is a big thing. But again, there's only so much that you can do. And at a certain point, your ideology is antiquated. You are not thinking about, people are talking about bringing back coal. Are you kidding me? There's solar panels on top of my house. We're using the sun. You're thinking about gasoline. My neighbors have an electric car. Things are changing, and change is uncomfortable, but it is necessary. And if we look back at where we were and look at where we are, it's not a lot, it's not a big pivotal shift. People are still
No.
stuck. And I think they're stuck on stupid and, or ignorance. And ignorance only means not knowing. That doesn't mean that you're a stupid person. That means that you don't know. You've never been exposed to another culture. You've never been exposed to a gay or lesbian person. You've never been exposed to different foods. You've never left outside of your county and been to another country. You have to be, it's a big world out there, brains. It's over 8 billion plus people on the planet. And we are all unique. We all have something different to contribute. So, Donna, what would you say to a first-time voter?
To make it your vote. That when you go into that voting box, it has to be about you. So it's the right decision that you make based on your needs, your qualities, your research. And research is so important. We've become kind of complacent. We've allowed other people to make decisions for us because we're comfortable. And we can't be that way anymore. We have to make the decisions for us and select the leaders that will represent us the best. So as going, someone new going to the voting box, it's about you. Really make it about you, because you're a citizen. Everyone has been given the right to vote. Take it seriously and do it. And don't just kind of collapse to what other people tell you, and oh, go vote for this person because they represent this or they represent that, or this one's not nice, that one's nicer.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about that. It's about leadership, and it's about doing the right things for our people and our country, and then how we impact the world around us.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to be very serious about it and do those things. So make an informed decision for you by doing your research first about you, what you stand for, what's important to you. Second, doing the research about the candidates. looking at their leadership capabilities, and then making an informed decision.
Mm-hmm. So let's ask you some fun questions. I'd love
Okay.
to do that. If I came to Jersey to visit you, where would you take me?
I will probably take you to one of my favorite Italian restaurants because in Jersey, we have them on every corner and one is better than the next. And there's nothing like a great meal to have a great conversation over and learn about each other.
Absolutely. Oh, and some wine and some pizza.
Yep.
You were an animal. What animal would you be and why?
I would be a cat. And the reason I would be a cat is because I think cats are very curious, and I'm very curious. I like to learn new things. I like to explore and to be creative. And I think that there's always something going on in the back of the cat's mind. And I feel like I'm like that too. There's always something going on. I'm always thinking about something.
Hmm. I'd be the party animal.
I think that's
A
special.
girl just wants to have fun. How about that? If
That's right.
you were an appliance in the kitchen of all places, what appliance would you be?
I would be a blender because I am about uniting people and bringing people together or uniting things. And so I like the idea of just, you could put everything in the blender and mix it up and come out with something really good from that experience.
I want to be the refrigerator. I just want to sit somewhere and chill. And if it doesn't work, I can put you in the freezer. How about that? And talk about later. Do that. If you were a car, what kind of car would you be?
Well, I would be a Tesla.
Ooh, very futuristic. That's cool.
Yes, very innovative, right? Very innovative.
I'd be
And and just
no, I'd be a 1974 VW van. Oh,
wow.
I would want that
Wow.
with the flowers and a mattress in the back and a hookah pipe, listen to some Jimi Hendrix with a fine brother with a big old afro. Oh, honey, yes, that's exactly where I would be. If you could time travel, go back to the past, stay here in the present, or project to the future, where would you land?
I would land in the future. Definitely in the future. I don't think it would be here on Earth. I think I'd actually end up in a different planet. I think I would end up probably on Jupiter. Don't just have this image of it. To me, when I see Jupiter, it's nothing but blues and fluffy white cloud like images to me. And it's just so inviting. I feel like I might have been there before, and I would end up there. I just think there's so much hope and possibility in being in a new and different experience in the future.
Yeah, I'd be somewhere futuristic too. I'd be like Saturn. I like all the green
Yeah,
and the energy,
uh,
the
yeah,
force. I like all of that. But
we'd
I
be
think about
neighbors.
exactly, but I think about that too because do you think that there are alternative realities and alternative species out there in the world?
Oh yeah, definitely,
I do too.
definitely, without hesitating. Yeah, I think that they're there. I think that they visit us, and we can communicate with them. I think we haven't opened to it, but if we did, there'd be all kinds of new possibilities for us.
Well, I mean, we're looking at artificial intelligence, brains, and that's another
Hmm.
thing. I remember, I remember when the internet first got popular, and my mother goes, "Ooh, that Facebook! I don't have nothing to do with that internet. It's nothing but the devil. It's nothing but the devil." Until she got in the car, and it was a GPS. Oh my goodness, we could go to the post office, do that GPS thing. It's wonderful. It tells you where to turn. It tells you everything. It tells you what to do innovation, artificial intelligence. People are, they're fighting against, they're raging against the machine. It is here and it is going at warp speed. Did anybody ever watch Star Trek? Did anybody look at what's going on in the world? These are concepts that are already out there. We are behind the times. And so if we are progressive in technology, and the way that we're going to produce our food, the way that we're going to deliver our children, the way that we are going to uh, pick our candidates. We have to be forward, progressive thinking. We can't think about, I tell people all the time, you can't fight a 21st century war with 1960 tactics. You won't
Mhm.
win. You won't win. And so
Yeah,
we are going to fight the good fight.
Yes. And, a lot of times we fear things, and this is not something to fear. We have to embrace it because fear only holds us back. And I use this example a lot, but when I first started and got out of college, I was in technology and I got my first home computer in the 90s and it took up a whole bedroom. And today I
Right,
have my phone.
right.
That's it, right? And it does all those things that that computer in my whole bedroom, um, did, and so much more, right? And so embracing it gets us to great places, but we're still far behind from where we should be. So we really have to get into technology and know what a role it's going to play in our future and where we go.
Tell us about your first book that
So
you wrote.
my first book is called The Power and Impact of Courageous Change Makers, Stories of Life, Love, and Business. And here it is. I just happen to have it. And so what it is an anthology. 25 authors came together and wrote their stories about how they became the change makers in their lives. And so each story is very different. It's not like you're going to read, oh, I did this over and over and over again. And in fact, my story is the last story in the book because I wanted to just kind of give all of the attention to the authors up front and have their stories heard. There's stories about things from dealing with anxiety to really dealing with an addiction and how that had changed their lives and how many times the addiction caused them to fight the same battles over and over again and how they kept on triumphing through them. So uh, it's very interesting book. It's The Power and Impact of Courageous Change Makers. I also am developing, this is my big book that getting close now. By the end of the year, it should be going to the publisher. It's called Be the Difference Now. And this is a book on leadership, but it's also driven on creating the future leaders, right? Those people who will do things differently than what we've experienced in our lives to bring people together to embrace technology and lead us to this different place in the future where we truly all experience triumphant
Mm.
experiences, where we all thrive, where we are all at peace and experiencing joy together. And, our leaders have the biggest impact on that in our lives by what they do um, in the world for us.
But it's who you follow. It's who you
Right?
follow, brains. It's who you follow. It's like at school. Do you always follow the cheerleaders? Do you always follow the football players? Do you follow the person that smokes cigarettes? Or do you follow the geeks, the nerds? Who is it that you are following? Look at that. Look at that. They got to pass the sniff test with me.
Yeah.
It's
But
very
also, who are you? Are you the leader? Right?
absolutely
And so think about it from that perspective too, because there's not always a group that you want to follow. So go be your own leader and
right.
go
Are
in a
you
different
an
direction.
impactor? Are you an influencer?
Yes.
You look at these influencers aren't just the people on TikTok brains and Instagram. I tell people I'm not into groupie love. Oh, I've got a million followers. I don't need a bunch of followers. I want 100,000 impactors and influencers, people that are going to make a difference. I want people that have gravitas, someone that you're drawn to. Someone told me that the other day, and it kind of brought tears to my eyes. It was about three or four ladies, and they said, "You know what? We just love being around you." And that was like, I was like, "You got a girl crush? What is this about?" And they go,
Ah, you have a magnetic energy.
but and that's what they said. They said, we like to listen to you. You challenge us. You make us think. Sometimes you don't say anything. You just sit and listen to what we're saying, you know. But I'm only going to listen to that conversation a few times. If you are continuously rewinding that same negativity over and over and over, I don't need a problem describer. I need a solution seeker. Tell me
Right.
what the problem is. Let's describe it. Let's try to work on it, move forward. But I can't stay stuck because it's detrimental to me. And again, like you said, you got to do the inside work. At the end of the day, it's about you, an individual choice. It is not about, the collective. That's not what we're about. And you have to be an independent, critical thinker. What is important to you? You know when something is not right. You know that something doesn't sit right with your soul. You know when you're being evil and you're being mean and you're being spiteful for no reason. But you know when you have a valid cause and there's something that you should stand up for. And I encourage all of us to do this. Couple things, Don. I'm going to want you to come back. I don't know if we're
Oh,
gonna come, I
great.
don't know if we're gonna do this again after the next debate because I get real fired up, I get real emotional, or we're gonna come back after the election because whoever gets elected, I want us to hold their feet to the fire.
Yeah, that would be great. I just also, Brains, I want to remind you, you are the leader in your life, right? So don't let other people make you a victim. Only you can allow that to happen, right? Because you are the leader in your life. Make your decisions for you. Lead yourself.
Because you got to look at yourself in the mirror. You got to look at your kids. You got to look at your bank book. You got to look at, that gauge in your gas. You got to look and see if you have a roof over your head. All of these things are individual choices that the person in the White House, you may never see that person, you know.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
what are you willing to sacrifice for that one individual versus the unification and the collective of all of us? Donna, please tell us how to get a copy of your book and how to get in contact with you.
So Brains, you can find the books. Both of them are on Amazon. Courageous Changemakers is in bookstores as well, but Your Vote, Your Future is now on Amazon and available to you. You can also find me on my website. It is Be the Difference, which is the name of my company, bethedifference.global. Go out there and see all the things that I do. I am very spiritual. In addition to developing leaders, I bring the spiritual practices to them and intertwine them in what we do every day so that we can be more effective and more fulfilled in what we do as leaders and in our lives. Also, you can reach me through email at donna@bethedifference.global. And I also have a contact page on my website that you can schedule time with me if you want to just chat.
Well, we're going to put all of your contact information in the back. And Brains, you are it. I love you from the bottom of my socks because my heart just isn't deep enough. And I mean that, but I tell you all the time, people are like opinions. There's a bunch of them. We all have assholes and they all stink. So what are you going to do with that information? Are you going to clean yourself up? Are you going to do the right thing? Are you going to pass the sniff test? Do you care about others? Do you care about the future of our planet? Are you selfish? Are you loving? Are you kind? Who are you? You're a brain, and I expect for you to use it. Thank you so much. Go in and love, like, share, and subscribe here on The Edge. Love, like, share, and subscribe. Share with a friend. Listen to this over and over again. Run, not walk, and get a copy of Donna's book. It's pamphlet. You can read it on a coffee break so that you can make an informed decision. We're not telling you to vote Republican, Democrat, or Independent. We are asking you to make a decision, but make a decision based on you, not the outside influences of others that may not ever touch you, but they will impact you. All right. Thanks so much, Donna. You're the best.
Thank you, Brains. And it was great meeting everyone. And thank you so much, April.
All right. Love you.